Wow, I've been talking the whole time. Hey, everybody. Oh, wow. That's a problem. I put that mute button on. What a loser. I need a tech person to help me with this stuff. Welcome. Hopefully, you familiarized yourself with. Wow, what a silly man I am. With the Tridactyls, the morphology. I want to talk to you guys about the Naga because I believe that these mythical beings are actually the actual Tridactyls. So, when I started researching these petroglyphs, the ones I recognize from Canada and the Taino, the Caribbean, when I started researching those, other archaeologists noted the spiral symbols, noted serpentine shapes, snakes, and of course, mother goddess imagery. So you have the mother goddess with the heart shaped faces, with the tridactyl limbs, and these spirals I associate with water. And maybe, as some suggest, maybe it's water serpents. Maybe it's both. It's a combination. Symbolism can have multivariate meanings, and these symbols can evolve over time. So immediately I started looking for water associated gods and serpentine gods. And what do you know? They're all over the place. The Dogon of Africa and their famous stories of suggesting that they came from the stars. Of course, the Naga, once again, yeah. And who else? There's just plenty of them. Eel gods to the Maori, frog beings to the Northwest Pacific Indians, taking people below to their underwater cities. Maybe you've heard the myths of eating fairy food or eating food on a spaceship. Either of those, they suggest don't do those. You're not coming back if you do. I hope you guys all appreciated the graphic I made recently. I'm not an artist, but I've just been really wanting to really just make a good quadrupedal stage of the being. So hopefully you saw that on the preview. Let's go ahead and take just a quick look at my ad here, and just so we can take a look at that. Yeah. So here we go. So what is happening here? So what I did was I just did some simple, very simple cut and paste, like paint shop type of editing. And I just took Suye and I just moved her bones around, erased them where I didn't like them. I've been trying to make a good quadrupedal stage. Sometimes the AI does help a bit. And so I have been able to squeeze out something there. So again, I went searching through all these myths of serpents and mother goddesses and water. These beings are said to be able to build great water systems and aqueducts. Well, why would you want that? Well, I suggest that they have this diadramus, I believe is the pronunciation. They go from a saltwater existence in a saltwater lake, perhaps originally in the Himalayas, but there's saltwater lakes everywhere. And perhaps they begin their life there and then they migrate to freshwater, where maybe they even breed according to some cosmological myths. If you are familiar with the lakes near the base of Mount Kailash, which I have a surprise at 7:30. So I will be stopping this early today, hopefully. You can go to YouTube, where I will be uploading my long form tale. Just film that. I felt with Stephen Brown out there, I felt like he really did a disservice by first suggesting that he was on board, that the Tridactyls were once living things, and then he switched his mind up and changed his mind afterwards because, well, I don't know why. But the llama theory is kind of lame. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about? I made a quick little slideshow, nothing fancy, just so we could just go over some Naga stuff and maybe get an idea where I'm coming from here. So the Naga and the dragons in Tibet, they're the Lu or the Klu, and in Chinese, they are Lung. You have to keep in mind, though, I just realized I didn't even put the old Chinese name. Chinese is very interesting because while a grapheme may be universal from culture to culture, um, the the uh, the word itself is going to change. So again, the grapheme could be very easily just the very same thing. So moving on, let me just go back a bit here. So yeah, I think there's a what is the other term for dragon? Feel free to drop me a line if you know the older term for dragon. That would be awesome. Here's this is for you. So guys, real interesting stuff. I feel like there is a lot of mother humanity in China, going back to the myth of what I call the Dragon Queen X, and that is the goddess, the Tian, in the heavens, in the high mountains. According to Tibetan myth, this Rakshasa queen bred with monkey people and had humans. So you here is interesting because, again, talking about old Chinese versus new Chinese, I don't know, well, proper Chinese. Look at his name, if you can see that. It's not pronounced you at all. It's a Naga morpheme. So, wow, what a hidden meaning there. That's why it's very interesting how things can be hidden, it seems, quite easily by changing words. So you now is the son of another being called Gun. So you, the great, and there we have, you see his U symbol and the Tien symbol, which also is great, was said to be born from an egg. Wow. Or hatched from the body of his mother. Both of those track with what I suggest in the tridactyl morphology. You know, I used to call it gastric brooding, but I don't think they have a stomach. So if they don't have a stomach, they're really coelemic chamber brooding. 7:30, 20 minutes. You can watch my long form lecture. Today, we're just doing a little thing on the tridactyls, and what I suggest is their Naga or dragon origins. So Gun was beheaded. He was beheaded at Feather Mountain, which again reminds me of our beheaded Victoria. Feather Mountain, I am suggesting that is that something to do with the feathered serpent. Are feathers a analogy for some sort of exterior respiration that might have been off of the spinal eminences? Or is it in reference to the cranial ridges that seems to have some sort of a feathery look to it? So it says here that Gun's corpse did not decompose for 3 years. But as another alternative, how was you born? He was either born from the abdomen or the heart after Gun's head is cut off. And this tracks with my suggestion that the quote, "I am the Alpha and I am the Omega," is in reference to the carving in the center of the decapitated skull's head that appears to look like an inverted archaic Greek A. And then the strange morphology, the very, very strange and unique morphology in the history of the world, is their near circular rib cages. Because of these Australia making a complete circle, it resembles an omega symbol slightly. And of course, we know that omega is the end of something, right? Alpha is the beginning of something. So are these related to this myth of you being born from Gun? And you also is Naga. Huh. I have a very touchy mouse. Let's see if I can change that. So two of the earliest Nagas mentioned, and these are found in the Mahabharata. They're in what I like is the Nilamata Purana, because the Nilamata Purana speaks of the origins of Kashmir, with Kashmir having Kashyap's phoneme in it, so that Ka phoneme is associated with Kashyapa. and you can see it in other names as well, and other deities and other concepts of time and darkness and the unknown. So as some of you may know, I had caught on to this Ka being a deity, which I suggest is the Alpha Naga. Of Kadru were born 1,000 splendid and irreproachable Nagas. Ooh, we got some pictures here. So what's interesting here, we have a Chinese dragon on the right. Sorry, there's not any provenance for these. I just kind of made this slideshow up. I think it's a good way to do the show, though. We can always, Google search, guys. But here is a Mesopotamian piece of illustration here. I believe it's illustrating a Stella. And there is the dragon advisory there at his side. Note it's a tiny thing, right? Small. So what happened with our myths of dragons? This is another dragon head from Mesopotamia. Some Naga beings. Note too, though, I suggest that their coiled tails is a steganographic representation, forming a sort of infinity symbol of their eyes. Guys, you can chat with me on any of the major platforms that I'm on, which is YouTube, Facebook, X. Feel free to say something. If anyone ever wants to be on the show, let me know. We can have you on. All right, so we got a bunch of Naga statues here. And, there might be some steganographic hidden here, right? These multiple heads could very well be supraorbital arches. In fact, you give a little squint, you might see a face appear there. Just some more of the different representations of the Naga protecting the deity here. I mean, this one on the left I always show because, these don't really look like serpents to me. They look like tridactyl faces. Do some have goggles? We'll have to look at a close-up of this picture. This one here, they kind of look like eels, which I see throughout the cosmologies of the world. So Confucius said of Lao Tzu, I have seen Lao Tzu, he is a dragon. Is this too a steganographic concealment? Is Lao Tzu a dragon? Are those large ears really just the wide set eyes of a tridactyl? I thought these serpents on poles were interesting, especially if you're familiar with the bronze or blazing serpent of biblical myth. You can see there is a very strange serpentine creature up here on the left. Almost looks like has a stunted body, perhaps, with some wings. And then we have another Naga pole there. So yeah, are those the original inspiration for our bronze blazing serpent from the Old Testament? All right, and that's just it for that little Naga show there. So, again, to reiterate for people, there is serpent imagery all over the world. In Egypt, they talk about the mother serpent and her laying of eggs in the city of Buto. There's, of course, the serpent mound here in the Americas, Quetzalcoatl. And so we assume there is snake worship. In fact, next month, Naga Panchami is a celebration of the end of hostilities between man and Naga, because there was a time they were burning the serpents. And the Nagas had to plead with the king, please stop the burning of serpents. And again, if I didn't finish my sentence, Kashmir is suggested to have been made by a Naga draining the area of water. There's, of course, Tiamat, the death of Tiamat, releasing the waters. So, and what does most people say? This is all coincidence, right? It's all coincidence that man all has this serpent imagery. Some suggesting that perhaps it's just because snakes shed their skin, so it demonstrates a regeneration or a long life. But of course, I'm saying it's much more than that. The animals are symbolic stand-ins. So maybe in the case of the Nagas of India, cobras remind them of the wide-headed Tridactyls and their long necks, which there's a biological discovery we had this week. I'm not sure if we discussed it, which is it appears as though there's only one condyle, a monocondyle, on the backs of the Tridactyls. So little things like that, I feel like should probably have been mentioned by other researchers already. I feel like some of the doctors that have been interviewed are still saying the same things. So I don't know if they're waiting for, I don't know what they're waiting for. I, of course, was not going to wait. From the very beginning, almost 2 years ago, people told me to hold on with that theory. Wait, wait for the researchers. Well, I had to be one of the researchers. So, yeah. So, in about 11 minutes, you guys can turn over to @Tridactyls on YouTube. I'm just going to upload it there first. Hopefully it gets shown at that time. And then I'll start to upload it to other platforms. And I'm also going to cut it up probably into little bite-sized bits for social media. And what I'd like to do is maybe go in and edit it and put the actual slide into the video, so you're not just looking at a image of a movie screen, it was filmed at a local theater. If you ever have any questions, feel free to drop me a line. Again, the Nagas and the dragons seem to be the most codified of the belief systems. Look for the tribal tattoos of people in Nagaland. Nagaland's a place. So it's not just myth to these people. In fact, to these people, they suggest that the dragon mother was their ancestor. And in the Dogon people is the belief that the serpent mother continues to mate with the next generation. Now, does she really mate with the next generation, or is it just a constant influx of DNA? So the basal tetrapod, the Nagi, what do you want to call them? The xenomorphs, the insectoids, the S-types, perhaps those were some of the first to have been hybridized with chimpanzees. Those descendants then were made hybrids again with another admixture of the dragon queen, of the mother serpent, and so on through the generations, so that you and I may be 1% tridactyl. But is Suye 1% tridactyl or 0%? Is Suye literally the basal type specimen, the type genus specimen? Let's take another look at her, if you don't mind. So I'm just going to head over to my Tridactyl folder on biology. I should show you guys all these folders sometime. And we're just going to pull up a good picture of the Suye types. Yeah. Well, we'll use this one right here. I like this one because it's I can show you the pneumatic. Okay. So this image of Suye, you see it has the pneumatic bone structure in the skull, which those of you that have suggested that these are llama teeth, unfortunately, again, these are pneumatic. So teeth are not pneumatic. So these cannot be llama teeth. You see that Miss Suye here has eggs like our friendly neighborhood Josephina, Artemis, Louisa, etc., etc. Now, it's suggested that she doesn't have ribs. I guess I'll wait to see on that one. I don't have a full opinion because she may have subtle, tiny ribs nonetheless. What is a good parallel for her? I don't know, a Sicilian amphibian. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Or even some sort of what they're called microstores, little tiny little dinosaur-like beings that were almost like dinosaur salamanders. Yeah. How do you pronounce that? Yes, it's Sicilian. It's like Sicilian from from Italy. Yeah, anybody out there? I do have to do the Tridactyl skull giveaway tonight. Although it's funny, I think I'm running out. So it was great. The person who won the skull last night was a researcher, an investigator from MUFON. So I was glad that she got the head. That's very cool. And let's go ahead and let's start moving that way, because again, we've got a premiere at 7:30 on YouTube. You can watch my full-length presentation, half morphology, half cultural studies. All right. I'm just going to go over to my Roll20 account. I don't know if there's any gamers out there, but since COVID, my D&D game moved to Roll20. And you know what? I have gotten really used to that. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like to go out much. I like to go out for work and for dinner and maybe a dog walk. Yeah. Okay. So we are going to roll today, and we have to see who our numbers are for the week. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Free Tridactyl head for the viewers. Let's see here. Bear with me. Naga with me. What else can we say about the Nagas while I'm looking up this stuff here? Well, again, if you watch the next show at about 6 minutes, you'll see that I do have an extensive Naga theory where I demonstrate that the Naga morpheme exists in Indo-European languages and other languages across the world. So just sharing the screen with you here. Here's the numbers for this week. See where we're at. All right. So here's some of our people. You can see there's still some slots open, so there might not be a winner. You can see some of the people that have already won. So that's neat. Let's see what we got. You guys ready? Let's see who our Tridactyl Josephina skull winner is this week. I'm going to roll a D100. What do we got? Boy, that thing just won't stop rolling. Looks like it's a 57. Let's see who 57 is. I'll put it on the board so everybody can see it. So it's all on the up and up, you know? Nobody on the 57. That's what happens. Okay. Well, thanks for watching my brief show on the Naga. There's obviously much more to learn and much more to discuss. Be sure to look at the long lineage. So just like the pharaohs, in fact, one of the Naga kings is named Nila, and I'm wondering if that's related to the Nile. So there's long multi-generations of Nagas. There is a fine record. That's another reason why it seems as though everything leads back to this area of the world. Think of also even just the culture that just recent last few hundred years culture that comes to us from China, the printing press and paper, the gun and gunpowder. There's a lot to say there. So it seems like there's been a steady stream over the centuries of language leaving the Mega Lake Gobi region and the Himalayan plateau, where I suggest there was once a proto-language. And I even suggest that our biblical myths are not from Mesopotamia. They're not from the Middle East, that they're from a deeper time back when maybe they took a lot more care in keeping things a secret. So that has been Mr. Ed with the Constant Companion Theory. I'm trying to be the world's best and first xenoanthropologist. I am a former archaeologist and a museum educator. So let's keep hunting out there. Get to those museums, because there's artifacts out there for you to discover. Reinvestigate your own myths and religion, because there may be more to it. Thanks for watching.